Right guys, today I'm going to discuss some of the heroes that I would like to be added from Paragon into Predecessor. I'm going to rank them in order from S to D. Obviously I'm not going to discuss the heroes that are currently in the game. So let's start off with Kwang. Probably going to go into A tier. A solid offlaner back in the day. Probably going to need more offlaners at the moment because it is a bit stale in that lane. Great ultimate, great to sustain in fights. Right, let's go into the next hero. We're going to go with Morgash. She will go into C tier. My reason for this, she wasn't the best in Paragon. She had a very niche following. She was not the strongest mid laner, and it was quite hard to justify her over some of the other mid laners. Next we have Sereth, probably going to B tier. She was a bit of a hybrid between offlane and carry, probably more so in the offlane. Very strong in fights, good ultimate, good sustain, good mitigation. It would be nice to see a couple more offlaners, to be honest. Next then we have Shimby, probably going to go into D tier. I just didn't get on with this hero at all. Very poor compared to other characters in the game at the time. So I felt like you were putting yourself in a bad position if you picked this hero in a team comp. But if you get the player that worked well with her, she would do well. But apart from that, there was a number of other heroes that I would have probably picked over Shimby. Next then we have Twin Blast. Is probably going to go into S tier. I think having Twin Blast in the game is almost like having the main character in a movie. He is the poster boy. I feel like out of all the characters, I feel like he should be number one on the list to be added. Again, we haven't really got that many carries at the moment, so having Twin Blast there does help. And obviously in the future when they do eventually add bans to the picks before the game, obviously having a good selection of heroes is good, but I feel like Twin Blast is currently at the top of my list of characters that need to be added in the Predecessor. Next then we have Wraith, probably a good A tier, really good character. He had a couple of unique abilities in his kit. The rewind, the ultimate to turn your team invisible, was just really, when he came out in Paragon, it was a game changer, which opened up a few different team plays that you could achieve with him. Definitely a good pick. Definitely a character that needs to be added. Everybody's favourite, Wukong next. I'm going to put him in C tier. Bit of mixed feelings with Wukong. He had great sustain with his double gangers, but a very annoying character to deal with, very slippery, hard to engage, great to split push in, but again, not my favourite hero. Next we have Yin, probably going to go into C tier. I felt like when she came out, she was meant to be a hybrid carry, which left her in a really weird spot because people weren't sure whether to pick her in the offlane or carry. If you picked her in a carry, you would have a negative effect on your team because she wasn't a range carry. She was a hybrid, so she had a leash, which made her better in the offlane, I think. But the way they depicted her was a hybrid carry, which didn't help. Again, if you picked her in the offlane, she's weak, as in she didn't have a lot of health to start with, a lot of armor. She needed that support to help her through. But if you could get her to the end game in the offlane and not die, she did very well. Next we have Zinx, which is probably going to go in the D tier. Again, a very poor character when she came out, underwhelming. She was annoying to play against. I felt like her kit was underwhelming at best. Definitely not one of my favourite characters that was added, and definitely not one to be added, to be honest. Next, we have Greystone. I think Greystone was A tier. I remember when Greystone came out with his ultimate, that obviously if you died in the game, you'd get respawned. At the moment, we have one of the crests that helps you respawn if you do die at the moment in the game. So it would be interesting to see what they did with Greystone. I felt like you couldn't really have him respawn twice, otherwise he'd be pretty broken. So it'd be interesting to see if they did add in what they would change in his kit. Next then we have Grim, probably going to be C tier. Grim was a carry in Paragon. He was a huge character which didn't really help as a carry. He was opened from attacks from everywhere. He did have a good kit overall. I think in the end he was just in a mid lane. I think that was where his role ended up. But otherwise he was an average at best character. Next then we have probably a controversial character back in the Paragon days, which I'm going to put in A tier, Iggy and Scorch. One of my favourite characters from Paragon. I felt like he went through a few different iterations back then that changed his kit up. Initially he was a slow character, only good for split pushing, but then a few metas changed. He was out of the meta, and then he got his kit reworked, which brought him back into the game. But again, a lot of people give you grief if you pick this character in the character selection for the game. So definitely one of my favourite characters, but it would be interesting to see what would happen if they did add him. And next we have Terra. Again, not one of my favourite characters. She'll be in D tier. She was hailed at having a CC immunity with her kit. She was brought in near the end of the Paragon game, which probably didn't really help with everybody's. When she did come into Paragon, she was granted as a tank. She was poor. I feel like at best there was other characters that could do way more on the kit than her. Again, she was almost a bruiser type, where she'd initiate, try and sustain, try and block for the carry, but I felt like her kit was poor. There was a few other characters that would do much better things than her. Next we have Aurora, probably going to go into B tier. She was alright when she came out. She had her ultimate which could freeze everybody in a close vicinity, which opened up plays for different wombo combos with different characters. She would be great if you could get like a Steel or a Gideon together, even a Faye. She was a good offlaner. She could clear. She was alright to play against. It wouldn't be my best pick if it was going to be in a team comp, but overall she was alright. So yeah, at the moment this is my tier list for Paragon heroes that need to be added. Obviously if you don't agree, you can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I think at the moment the game needs probably new characters rather than old ones to rely on, especially going forward. I feel like the game needs some fresh air and some new characters and fresh faces. Obviously I still got a few favourites from Paragon, and no doubt they do have the characters there ready to come in later seasons. So it'll be interesting to see what they did with the kit, how they would interact with the new items, how people will play them. No doubt they're going to tweak some of their kits to adapt them to Predecessor, which will be good. And obviously the more heroes that get added, the better. I feel like at the moment when you pick a team comp, there's a good chance you're going to have 2 heroes from each team that are going to be the same, which is alright, but not the best for the future. I feel like the more variety they can add with new characters, new faces, helps the game, helps bring in new people, and obviously it does everybody favours. Right, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and obviously, like I said, if you don't agree with me or have heroes that should be in different tiers, you should let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and subscribe.